What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Neuro Hive channel presented by Hidden Falls Media. Today, we are hopping in and doing a neuro website analysis of one of the biggest, most popular brands out there, Nike.com. We're going to walk through our neuro insights around their website and what adjustments they're doing or can do in order to get their site to perform better. Nike is notorious for constantly changing their website, updating, and doing everything in their power to actually make sure that you buy what you go there to buy. It comes with brand, it comes with marketing, it comes with advertising, it comes with paid sponsorships, it comes with celebrity endorsements. All these things come together to make their marketing strategy super powerful, but at the core of it is their online website, which does way more revenue than their stores combined. So let's look into it. We're going to dive into their website and actually break down from attention, gaze plots, heat maps, areas of interest, everything that's surrounding Nike's website that makes it functional and dysfunctional. Let's hop right in. So here we are on Nike's website. I'm going to scroll through this first, and then we actually went through and did some neuro-marketing analysis on their site. Starts off very clean. It's a little busy up at the top, but we'll get into that in just a minute. They actually are promoting you to download the app if you're on mobile or on an iPad like I am currently. And then they're having you scroll down what's getting ready for fall, some featured products, what's always iconic, their Air Jordans, shopping by sport, new fall styles, and then promoting you to become a member. And then we've got our footer, which has everything else in it. So now let's break into my good notes here. If you guys don't use this app, it's freaking awesome. It allows you to write, edit, do all types of notes inside of here. So we broke this down section by section, so follow along and check out what we found inside of here. So starting off, we've got just their main image that we put in here, and let's flip into the next page. So let's look at heat mapping. Heat mapping around where people's attention actually is on their website. So usually when we are looking at websites, and I'm going to do this in, let's go hot pink today. Let's break this size a little bit further up. We're typically viewing this in a Z formation. So we usually like to start top left. We'll go all the way to the top right, all the way over here. And then our brains love to do this Z pattern where we scroll down to the bottom left, and then we love to go to the right. And it's mostly because of how much information we're inundated with all the time that we actually do this. So looking at the site, it doesn't really follow that. And when you look at some of Nike's older sites, when you specifically some of the ones from mid-2010s all the way through even 2020, they followed that format very closely. But in the last few years, they've actually started to deviate away from that. And they've gone super heavy middle focus. And we're starting to see that inside of here. But let's pop back in. They're going in and they're talking about their extra 20% off select styles. We have a strong indicator right here, right? This is a super strong heat area. Top middle is always going to be super strong. Shop new fall styles. And then because we have such a high contrast here, where we have high hot, high black areas, and it's in the middle with this area of contrast, you're going to get things like that where there's just a super hot spot right there. And then if you notice, we almost don't even pay attention to this shoe over here. It almost doesn't even exist for us. And then following that Z formation, we're going back down to the bottom left and scrolling to the right as we're moving some of that attention. And then they introduced bases, which is actually super smart here, because when we're looking at bases, we typically see an increase in people wanting to engage with that content. They're super dialed in when we see eyes specifically, but faces overall. And if you can see the white in their eyes, which you can in this photo, let me go back here and zoom in. You can see the whites of their eyes, which is super important for this. It's a big trust factor within marketing photography for us to be able to see this. And then we finish it off with two hot spots of high contrast inside of the white shoes. Not surprised to see that getting picked up at all. Now, this is one of my favorite sections when we're starting to get into this, which is gaze plot reporting. So this is an order of operations, more or less, around what people are looking at and in what order. Now, this is all AI generated. We are looking into technology where we can do this in real life and we can actually have people go through their site in real time. But this is fairly accurate. It was developed by MIT scientists, so they've got a pretty good grasp on it. But notice what we're starting out here with. We're starting out with the faces. Once we start out with the faces, that, like I said earlier, that's a super easy hotspot for people to gravitate towards. Then we're going straight up into position number 2. We're going straight up. Position number 2, high contrast, right in the middle of the page. Very, very hard to miss. And then our eyes are gazing over to the left, meaning that this shoe over here is definitely going to sell less than this one right here because it's out of focus, out of sight. Nobody's really going to pay attention to it. And if we were to back this up and see inside of Nike's data, we would see that this shoe definitely performs less than what this first main center one here does. Then we're jotting over to the text. Look extra, select 20% off, select styles. We're briefly glancing at that. If I had to guess, we're probably just hitting that extra 20 and then bouncing off of that and then coming back down into our photos because we just saw a deal. We just saw what a possible discount looked like. And now we're bouncing back down into product. From there, we're kind of bouncing back up and it gets a little gibbery all over the place. And then it's probably falling apart pretty fast after that. And then you're going to start to scroll. An opacity map here, this is what your eyes are actually paying attention to, and the rest of it's kind of dead space. Dead space in a website is really good. Nike understands this. It's why they use a lot of white on white in a majority of their situations. It's because our brains just register it as dead space, and it allows things like the shoe, like the extra 20% text, like a high contrast image, and like our faces to really pop. And this is really what we're going to be paying attention to, are these main areas of the site. The rest of it, while it's important information if you're looking for it, really not anything that we need to be spending a ton of time on from a conversion rate standpoint. We won't get into aesthetics or area of interest because I want to show you guys the next section of this to kind of see some contrast play through, and you'll see very similar themes repeat as we go through this. By the way, if you want us to look at your website, drop a comment down inside of the YouTube channel for us or inside of our social media. Just drop the link and say, analyze my website, and we're more than happy to work through and put you guys into the list. So let's keep going here. 5 days to sell app, great, getting people to download the app, showing a celebrity with the shoes, and we see the bottom half of the previous section that we saw. Same thing. What's in the center? 5 days, super hotspot, face, super hotspot, and then we're dragging a little bit into this. You'll notice as you're sliding down, your areas of interest aren't going to be as high up top. We're not going to have our heat map of what people are actually looking at inside of there nearly as much. So if we go over to the gaze plot report, we're going to see the same thing, right? Our face picked up our number one activity and moved straight into our 5 days to celebrate, and our whole text line runs across this. So we notice the face first, 5 days to celebrate, and then we're going straight across. Everything else is kind of secondary there. So if they really, really, really wanted people to download the app, what would they do? They would have put this, download the Nike app, inside of this box, right next to the face. It would take a little bit of creativeness to kind of fill that in, but having that face right next to the call to action button would probably end up moving this from being number 2 to where now we're bouncing number 2 over here, and then we're going up and reading this line. That should be starting to make sense for you guys. And it's super easy on this to take action on your website as well, because you'll notice if you have faces in there and you're not getting great call to actions, you might want to consider moving something like the download the app right here, or even eliminating this picture altogether. Because if you remember in the previous slide, this didn't even pick up attention until spot 9, 10, 16, 11, and a little bit of 14 around this high contrast box here. So if they were going to do it, face, and then boom, big call to action button right here. That would help them tremendously across their website and getting people to download the app. And Nike, this works for you. Make sure you send me some good sneakers. Always a fan. Let's keep moving on. I know we're moving fast, but we're going to be doing a ton of videos like this. And over time, you guys will start to really see the pattern. Neuromarketing is all about identifying those patterns. It's all about getting to the heart and soul of why people are actually clicking on what they're clicking subconsciously. And while there's emotion, while there's copy, while there's imagery that we can really push and pull, there is structure and format that our brains love to see with websites. They love to see with apps. They love to see with creative pieces of content. And if you follow some of these deep-rooted formulas that host marketing people don't talk about because it's their trade secrets, you'll notice that they'll start to convert more for you. So keep an eye out, see what you can learn from this. Make sure that you take what you learn and put it into your website and let us know if it's working for you. And if we can even grade your website for you, we would love to hop in and do that. So like I said before, make sure you drop your link down below. So getting into this next section, right? New for fall, let's just take a guess. Let's take a guess before we even hop in. I'm gonna guess this is gonna be our area of interest because it's high contrast. There's nothing really around it. Our new for fall is gonna be a hot section. I'm gonna guess these yellow pants are gonna be super big. And then I'm gonna guess our face. I'm gonna guess maybe a little bit of this outline right here, not much. I'm gonna guess that the majority of this is actually just dead space for them, and same over here. That's not really gonna pick anything up. Maybe one of these boxes where there's high contrast, but not much. Especially when we look at the opacity map, we'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about here. Let's get into the heat map. Boom, called it. Right in the middle here, we've got a triangle. This is also very popular for brands to do a triangle call to action where we've got like an H1 headline here. We've got our H2 headline down here, and then our CTA button right below it. Formulating that in a triangle shape is very popular now. It works very well, just as popular as the Z pattern. And if you notice from what we were talking about before, let's just switch this over to blue. If we're set up this way, we're actually going inside of that Z pattern. We're going top left to top right, we're going down and across, and then we're shooting back over again to hit our markers on this. And it's okay. Even people like Donald Miller inside of Building a Story Brand, they'll talk about putting your CTAs on these focus points up here, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. But it's also okay if you're doing this triangle because it just fits perfectly just right inside of that shape, and you're really able to hit all those points pretty simultaneously. So we talked about this as well. The shorts were going to be a big hot spot, the shoe with the high contrast, even a little bit down here, and then once again, hitting right on the face, high contrast area. And notice how they're not adding a ton of call to action buttons inside of each one of these boxes, right? We don't see a CTA down here. It just doesn't exist. And the reason being is that they know, one, that if you click on the image, it'll take you to what they're selling specifically, especially on a shoe or pants or shirts or bras, anything like that. They're really good about making those images clickable to get you to where you want to go. But they also know that if they're adding in too many call to action buttons throughout their site on each individual product, that people aren't going to enjoy, because the whole message the whole time is just buy this, buy that, shop now, shop now, shop now. While that may be the intention, our brains instantly go. If somebody asks you if you want to buy something, our almost instinct reaction is to instantly say no. And it's because we've been conditioned this way over a long period of time, but it's also because with those marketing messages, we don't want to feel like we're being sold to. We want to feel like something's being presented to us at the right time, at the right opportunity, and whether that's going to make us feel significant or feel like we're growing, or it's something new and exciting, any of those human needs are going to play a deep factor into this. And we just want to make sure that we're respecting that inside of our marketing process. So let's hop back in. So our heat map, let's take a guess at our gaze plot. Knowing what we know from our heat map, let me just erase this. So knowing what we know from our heat map, we're most definitely going to be looking at my own stuff. So looking at this, I'm going to guess probably a 1, 2, 3 because it's a face. And then it's probably going, because we have leading lines going this way. So we have leading lines from the bars that are pushing us. I'm going to guess 4 is probably over here along with 5 and the rest of them. And then we'll probably end up shooting next to this bar. The other alternative is that from 1, we might see points here and here from the text and then shoot down, but you never know. Pretty close. I was pretty close. You can tell I've been doing this for a while. So we've got our triangle, right? 1, we shoot down into 2, over to the face for 3, and then we're going over, where's 4? Oh, then we're going back up to the text, 4, 5, and then into 6. So not bad. Out of all the sections, I would say this one's probably the most well-designed. It's very little clutter. We do have leading lines that are kind of pushing us back towards this way. So if we're looking at the opacity map, those areas are going to be pretty much blocked out, right? We've got a ton of negative space all around what they don't want us paying attention to, which is totally fine. We need dead space, and we need a lot of it typically. So remember when 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way around, and then 6 and everything over there. So we only have a few more sections left inside of here. This one, super cluttered image, right? We've got a super cluttered image here that's going to be very interesting for us to dissect. So let's take guesses, right? We know that we're going to have big areas of interest here, and then we have a ton of faces over here. Might not be the best picture for this if they want people to take action on this shop button down here. There is context that's always applied to this, and that's where copywriting comes in and can be such a great mover. While a picture may be worth 1,000 words, if I can sell you in the 7 or 8 that it takes for you to take action, that's really what ends up moving the needle for us, because let's face it, our attention spans are really low in today's society. So, very surprising. It didn't pick up any of the faces for hotspots, really. We do have a center right here that's picking up on it, and a little bit from text just because there's some contrast on black against white over here. And then we have a strong recognizable brand signal over here as well. Let's hop into the heat map. This is actually very surprising for me. I would not have guessed this, strictly because while it probably got picked up because it is kind of complex on a black background with white text, it's very busy. It's very busy on this side of the screen, and typically when you see a lot of busy elements, people don't pay attention as much. So if I was guessing and looking at their heat maps on their sites in real time using something like Hotjar, I would most definitely have guessed that something like the shoe would have picked up the majority of the attention, strictly because we have a strong high area of contrast over here. And you'll notice that the NFL ball didn't get picked up at all, which is really interesting. You would think within a reputable brand like the NFL that it would pick it up a little bit more, but it's more for social validation, bandwagon effect, and some of those other basic marketing tools. Yeah, you'll notice the football is completely blacked out here. That's really funny, really interesting. And guys, just so you know, I don't look at these ahead of time. I'm reviewing these in real time with you. I've not seen any of these images before, so this is really cool. All right, last one. Whoops, cheated a little bit, slid over a slide too much. But first guess always, right? We have very close to white on white, very close to white on white with a little bit of gray. So of course the thing with the most contrast is going to stand out, and Nike was no dummy because they put it right in the middle. So very, very common with e-commerce products, put something bland on one side, bland on the other side, make something super exciting in the middle. We call this the decoy effect. With the decoy effect, the goal is to essentially pull attention from one direction to the other. And in doing so, we kind of get to pick which products we want our audience to go towards. You'll see this in decoy pricing. You'll see this with putting specific products next to each other. And it's all around how you're going to optimize this for your own site. So looking back into this high contrast area, my guess is this is going to get the attention. We definitely know this middle one is, and this one will pull more attention than our white on white. Let's even look at the prices. What's funny is that this one's actually less expensive than this one. Also decoy pricing, right? We're going to anchor our price on one that's less visually exciting at $160 for the one that we know we're going to sell more of and we want to sell more of at $120. And you're thinking, wow, that's actually a deal, and I'm actually saving $40 here, when that price is just made up, right? They could charge Nike could charge whatever they wanted for shoes. So this $40 difference is actually pushing you into that $120 price. And if you look at this one being $110, the $110, you're instantly thinking, well, I only have to spend $10 more to get the one that looks the coolest, because the other ones just look bland next to it. Even though if we were to zoom in on this, there's a ton of vibrant colors in here. But on the photo, they muted the colors they brought down the intensity of those colors and made it more black and white, so that way you'll focus on the one that they actually want you to buy. So even though we're losing 40 on this, gaining 10 on that, they're really pushing you towards that center product here. So looking at the heat map, right, if this had full color over here, if we had that color blown out, you would actually see that people would not be going for this one nearly as much, this one here in the middle. They would be going over to this one because it has more color, it's pulling your eye that way, there's way more contrast, and it's way more visually interesting. But because they want you to buy that product, like I said, they dulled down the colors, they pulled everything back, so that way you'll end up picking the one that they want, which they've anchored around price of our 160 and 110, and they put it in the middle. That's a little bit more visually stimulating. Heat map or a gaze plot report, you're going to notice the same thing. Most of our area of interest is inside of here, our top points. You're looking over here for just a very brief second, and then boom, you're jotting back over, because out of all of them, this one over here is probably the second least or second most interesting out of the three, leaving this one to most likely have less sales, most sales, and I would say maybe about 15 to 25% less sales. And that's just based off of being in the industry for a while. You get to kind of know what most of those numbers look like. Area of interest, right? All of this dead space, and even dead space down here and all around it. Remember, they do that on purpose because they're wanting you to focus only on what they're trying to sell you here. Cool. Hopefully that's making sense for you guys. Now we're getting into two of the last sections here. Probably won't do the footer just because you guys know what a footer looks like. It's got all that crazy links and everything in it. So last one, big area of interest right now. We've got a ton of options for this. Because we have high contrast here with a recognizable logo, that's definitely going to be picked up in either number 1 or number 2. The face. This one's either going to be 1 or 2. This one's probably going to be 3 or 4. And the reason I'm going to put it there is because of this high contrast icon right here. While these also have high contrast, it's white on white with a little bit of a black line. This orange on orange here is definitely going to pop. This dark on dark's not going to pop nearly as much as the orange on orange. And even, I mean, look at this creative branding. Even putting the orange next to an orange Nike jersey. I mean, that was so purposefully done, and it's so well masterfully created from the beginning with the intention around how they're going to design this. Here we go. Looking at this, I can definitely tell you, right, the face got number 1, like we said. We're probably going to go over here to the other face. Now I'm going to guess 3, 4. And like I said, this stuff almost didn't even get picked up. It's closer to the end of the back of this. Yep, face got number 1. High area of face, high area of contrast. Even here on the purple foot or purple shoe, high area of contrast against the silver background. And then we're starting to get into some of the other areas. So super interesting. Tons of dark space. This is even part of the banner because they're trying to pull you in towards the faces and towards the different icons that we have around here. Let's wrap this up. Final one. Tons of text, right? What are people going to click on when there's a ton of text and a ton of options for people to look at? This is where we need to do testing, and I'm sure Nike has done a ton of testing around order of operations inside of each of these buckets. Because when you're selling hundreds of millions of dollars a year in apparel and shoes and everything else that they offer, even these small details around how they're putting these in matter. Even order of operations between each one of these matters. You'll notice down here, we might get a little bit of a blip just because we have some high contrast, and even these have specifically been dulled down, right? They dulled the color down, so it's less likely for you to pick up on them because they don't want you necessarily focused on shipping and returns, order status returns, order cancellation, payment options. They don't really care. Same with these. It's not important to the shopping experience, and therefore it's not focused on. What's not focused on is unimportant, and our brain just washes all that information right out the door for us. So let's see. We've got clothing as a hotspot. And we've got kids as a hot spot. And then our left picks it up a little bit, almost nothing on shoes. And then, like I said, a little bit of contrast down here, but not much. All right, gaze plot. Clothing, kids, featured. And then we're bouncing up into our fourth position for this to where we can wrap it up and look at that order of operations. Not surprised, right? Clothing kind of hit middle and you're thinking, wow, like these are all kind of in the same line, but it also has a lot to do with framing and context around what was shown. We did see a lot of shoes. I'm honestly surprised that shoes didn't pick up a little bit higher, but c'est la vie, it is as it is. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of how we walk through Nike's website from a neuromarketing perspective. Like I said before, if you want us to do this for your website as well, drop us a link and a comment down inside the YouTube channel. We'll make sure to go through them and we'll start analyzing your website right away. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, follow, and share for more content, and we'll see you in the next video.